Hi, this is Cecilia from Don't Drool on the Wool. Today I'm going to be doing another yarn review for you guys. Originally, I had planned for this week to do a yarn review of Red Heart Shimmer because it's sort of new and it's different than regular Red Heart, and I had bought it to try it out and wanted to share my feelings with you guys. But I wanted to wait until I finished with my hat, and I'm not done with it because there's all these baubles and cables and stuff. So instead I was thinking, what am I going to review? I have all these other things I could review, and then I got a suggestion from Abby from Everywhere Knits to do the fisherman's wool that I've been working with for actually like 13 weeks. It never even crossed my mind that I should review this yarn. I've been working on it every week, at least about 3 swatches a week to test stitch patterns to learn from. And the reason I chose this wool is because it's cheap and it's really easy to obtain. It's not like I have to order it or go to my local yarn store, which is not local. It's like 30 minutes away. So this is just easily obtainable out of Michael's or Joann's, and it's about $10 a ball. For some reason the prices are different depending on the color you get. I don't really know why that is, but I just have been sticking with the cream colors, mostly to see my stitches. But yeah, so I worked up a couple swatches with this. I made 4 swatches, the 2 that you just saw, which are hiding in my little purse here. Sock. Here's the first one that I knitted, or crocheted there. You can see it's kind of wonky. I'm going to try to block that out. We'll see how well this yarn takes to blocking. There's going to be a lot of adventures with this yarn. And here's the second spit up clip there. This little garter stitch swatch. Isn't it interesting? I knitted and crocheted for 10 minutes for each of those videos and just clipped a little bit out of it. And 10 minutes of crochet gives me this much, and 10 minutes of knitting gives this much. So that was interesting. These 2 swatches are going to be frogged later in the video. I have been reading some of other people's comments, both on Ravelry and on knittingreview.com, and a few other websites like Amazon, people that have just been reviewing this yarn, and I've heard a lot of negative remarks, and one of them was it doesn't frog well. So these ones are for frogging. We'll see what happens. Felting, the yarn felts like a dream. Do you see this swatch? Do you see how felted it is? It is freaking super felted. And you know what? I did this by hand and it took 2 minutes. And I've tried felting things before and they take forever. I've tried with Cascade Ecological Wool and with Sistari Worsted, and both of them I sat there for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, just, rubbing it and like scrubbing and like in hot water and then cold water, and it just wouldn't work, and I ended up tossing it in the dryer. But with this stuff, it felted right up. 2 minutes. I put it in at like 3:21 and took it out at 3:23. I just scrubbed a little bit and it was done. And that makes me really happy, and I didn't know that about this yarn, and I'm pretty excited about that. Okay. I actually have a couple more experiments to do. So I'm going to go get my crocheted swatch. I have another swatch about this size to take out of the dryer and see if how that one felted. And then also, I don't know if you can see, oh you can, my hands are all blue. I dyed some, so I got a little skein and I'm waiting for it to dry right now, and then I can bring it in and show you guys. Okay, I'm back. You can probably tell the lighting in my room has changed a lot because it's like hours later because I've been trying to put my baby to bed, and it finally worked. So where was I? I don't even know. I think I was going to go get a swatch, which would be this one here. This swatch is the crochet swatch. I told you earlier, I did 4 swatches. I have more here with me. You might think, why did you do so many swatches? Well, these 2 were for felting, these 2 were for frogging. So, I did 2 one in knit and one in crochet for each. And the reason I did that was mainly for practice crocheting, but also I learned something really interesting, and that is that when you felt a crocheted item, even if you use pretty much the exact same needle size, it was this was a 5.5 millimeter and this is a 5 millimeter, so pretty much the same size, you end up with a totally different fabric. This one is like super sturdy, and like this is exactly the type of fabric I would want for a purse or like slippers. This one's kind of floppier, and that's really interesting and totally not about the yarn at all, but I wanted to share it anyways. And the other reason I did it is because I've heard people both in this quest to find information about this yarn and also in other places like on Ravelry, I've heard people say, oh, can I felt white yarn? And the answer is you can, depending. The reason a lot of wool yarns that are white won't felt is because they are bleached white. But because Lion Brand is 100% natural and it's actually still got the sheep lanolin in it, it's natural, straight off the sheep white wool, and that's why it felted rather nicely. I'm not sure you can see it, but it came out so good. This one was originally, the other plan was I was going to have one hand felted and one dryer felted, but it turns out my dryer doesn't work very well, and it felted really irregularly, and so I had to do this one by hand as well. But it still came out really beautiful. You can't even see any stitch definition in either of these swatches, which is ideal for a felted object. So that's the felting part. I printed out a cheat sheet here to go over a couple things. First, I think because I didn't go over it yet in the beginning there, I just kind of popped right into it. I'm going to go over the statistics of this yarn. As you know, it's fisherman's wool. It's fishermen's, men, like plural, not man, fisherman's. I was typing fisherman's wool a lot and wasn't getting a lot of results. It's an E. So, fishermen's wool. It's 100% pure virgin wool. It is 8 ounces and 227 grams, and 465 yards. That's a ton. It's like the holy grail of giant skeins, and it's the only thing that size you can find at Michael's besides a sock yarn. Yeah, so for comparison, here's my Red Heart Shimmer. This is 100 grams, which is pretty regular for worsted weight. It's 100 grams, and it's, I think, 280 yards, which is kind of high for worsted weight. And then I have here a little chart that I made. I know you can't see it, but I made a little chart right here. And it's kind of to go over the differences between a couple of really popular worsted weight wool, 100% wool yarns, and the prices that they are. So first, these are mostly wools that you can find at Michael's or Joann's. I don't know what's going on with the lighting in here, but ignore it. Patton's Classic Wool. I love that wool. I haven't done a review on it yet, but I totally should. Patton's Classic Wool is often found for $4.99, and it comes with 223 yards. So that comes out to 22 cents a yard. Cascade 220 used to be one of my go-to worsteds, but now they upped the price. So now it's $8.95 for 220 yards, which is now up to 40 cents a yard, which is really high. And then the Debbie Stoller's brand, the Stitch Nation yarn, full of sheet, which I really need to do a review on that yarn because it wears terribly. And I wish I loved it as much as I love her books and her stuff, but I just don't. I guess that was as much of a review as you really need. So that goes for $4.99 also, and it only gives you 155 yards. So that's 31 cents a yard, which is 10 cents higher than Lion Brand, and also you only get 155 yards. So the Lion Brand yarn is $9.99 or $10.99, depending on what color you get. I don't know why, but that is the truth. It's 465 yards, so that brings it up to 21 cents a yard. So 1 cent cheaper than Patton's per yard. And that's great. The only thing that's really wrong with it is that it has a very, very limited color selection. There are 7 colors. There's the creamy color, there's this oatmeal gray color, there's a maple dark, kind of like my desk thing color, and there's like mixes, like marls between the two, so like a twist of a dark and a light yarn, and maybe like a heather or 2, and that's it. Those are all the colors, and that's the main downside, I think, to fisherman's wool. Oh, I also checked out Wool of the Andes, and that comes out to 18 cents a yard, which is ridiculously cheap, but you have to order it online through Knit Picks. You have to. You can't get it at your yarn store or anything. And it only comes in 110 yard balls, which is really small, and that's one of the benefits of fisherman's, is that you get this huge skein, and there's not, you ideally would only have to join one ball to the next giant ball. That's not the case with me, because I like to wind my fisherman's into balls, like workable balls. I do that with almost every yarn I have, even if they come in skeins or balls already. I still like to wind them into balls because I like them to roll. I don't know why, but so I end up hacking this up into about 3 balls anyways, but that's just me. Ideally, you could work straight from this middle bit and just work and work until it's all gone. And you would only have to join every 465 yards, which can turn out to be quite a lot. So there's a bit of rant on yardage. So yeah, it doesn't come in a lot of colors, but if you buy the white one, which is one of the cheaper ones, you can dye it yourself. I dyed this teeny weeny teeny tiny little skein blue, as you can see. This is not the best interpretation of the color because of the lighting. It's a little bit lighter than it is. It's more turquoisey than what you see. I chose, the way I did this is such a small little piece here. All I did was found a little ball that I had left over, wound it around my arm into a tiny skein, stuck it in a cup, like a teacup, and put in 5 drops of food coloring, just the neon blue food coloring. I put in 5 drops, that's it. Just for reference, usually when I'm dyeing like a big whole skein in like a pot on the stove, I'll put in like 20 to 30 drops of each color, and usually I'm using more than one color, but so I put 5 and I figured that would be good. And I microwaved it for 2 minutes and it came out just perfect, and it took the dye perfectly. I've washed it and wrung it out a bunch of times. No more colors coming out. The water's clear and it looks great. So really, you could just buy the white and have all the colors you want and have a bunch of hand-dyed yarn, which is a fun experiment. It's fun to play with the colors and it's really awesome. The only problem would be that it comes in a giant skein, so you'd have to wind a bunch of hanks out of it. Kind of a pain, but you could technically, if you wanted to go the cheap way to get a bunch of colors, you could get a lot of different colors. And since someone might look at my numbers and be like, oh, well, for that you might as well buy patents and just buy their pre-done colors. But I find that I really like hand-dyed yarn. You get a little bit of subtle variation that you just don't get with a bunch of commercially dyed yarn. That and patents is much, much thicker than fisherman's wool. And a lot of people look at that as like a downside of fisherman's wool. It's not really a worsted weight. I don't consider it a worsted weight. It's really thin. It's a really thin worsted weight. But I don't know, that's a plus or minus depending on who you are and what kind of things you like to knit with. But yeah, I'm gonna go through here and see what I am missing. You can admire my sock yarn or my little mini skein as I do that. Yes, it took the dye beautifully. Oh, some other options if you don't want to use food coloring, because with the food coloring you have to put vinegar in there, and it does kind of linger, the vinegar smell. I washed it with some eucalyptus, I don't really know how to pronounce it, but so it smells a little lavendery, but you can still kind of get a hint of the vinegar. So if you don't want to use vinegar with your egg dye, Easter egg dye, or food coloring, you could also use Wilton's cake dye, or Kool-Aid would work just perfectly fine with this because the acid in the Kool-Aid does it itself. You don't have to put any like mordant in there. And of course you could do chemical dyes, whatever you want. And it'll take to it beautifully because it's 100% wool and it looks amazing. And I love it. Okay, so now people's complaints about this yarn. I'm gonna go over them real fast. People claim that there are lots of thin and thick spots with this yarn, that there are loosely plied areas, that it doesn't cable well, it's full of vegetable matter, it smells chemically, there's bits of plastic and or metal plied into the wool, and lots of knots in the skeins. Now, I've only knitted through one entire skein. This was the natural color that I used to make all these swatches that I did for my Super Stitches knitting project. It took nine weeks of 3 swatches a week. And I'll grab a couple out. Yeah, these feel weird after being in the freezer for a week or two. I was afraid the moths would get them. They don't smell chemically. They really don't. Like, none of it does to me. And they were saying when it gets wet it'll smell chemically, but I have not noticed that at all. I totally smell the lanolin, the sheepy smell, but that's it. As far as knots in the skein, this was a complaint that a lot of people made. A bunch of people complained about this. And I went through, like I said, that whole 465 yard skein, and I've gone through quite a, well, not quite a bit, but a bit of this one. And I have honestly encountered one knot, and it was in the very beginning of that first skein, and I left it in, and it's still in the swatch. And I'll try to put that picture up in a minute. Yeah, so I really didn't find that the batch I had many knots. And the complaints of vegetable matter, plastic being plied into the wool, I also didn't notice a lot of that. A lot of people said that they found dark bits, like goat hair, someone said. Dark bits in their cream wool, and they were upset because it made it... I'm finding dark hair, but it's all mine. And I don't know how much it would have stayed in these after a bath and everything, but I don't remember seeing enough to complain about it. And I mean, like with the Sestari wool, I was finding vegetable matter left and right, and it would itch at me and poke me, and I never had enough of a problem with it with the fishermen's to really notice or care. So I didn't find that to be a problem either. The doesn't cable well. I haven't cabled with this yarn yet, and I wasn't going to do it for this video because I'm going to have a whole section on cables eventually, and I've done a lot of textured knitting with this yarn already, and I think you can see that it does pretty well with texture. It I don't know what they were going with when they said that, but I mean, it's fisherman's wool. It's like marketed towards people who want to make Aran sweaters, so you would think that it would be kind of made for cabling and such, but I don't know. I found that it takes to the textured stitches pretty well. It looks really nice. I think it pops. There's not... I think it gives a lot of stitch definition the higher needle size you go. These were all with the size 5. I wish I had a texture swatch from a bit bigger size, but I don't. So I don't know. Maybe not with that one. I'll discuss it when I get to my cabling bit also, I suppose. The claim that there are lots of thick and thin spots in the wool is, I did notice that, but not until after I read about that and started looking for it. I got a picture, and I'll put it up right here. So you can see that there is, it kind of looks like there's like a, someone took a chomp out of it almost, like, and there are a couple of pieces like that, but honestly, I'm gonna say for such a, I mean, it's a nice cheap wool for the price and for the amount you get. It's totally worth it, and especially for people who can't afford the things like Cascade 220, you know, or they don't know about Rhoda and that they can go online and get $1.99 110 yard balls. You know, people who are like beginning knitting or crocheting and they want to try wool but they're not really sure about it, I think it's totally fine. Or for people who are beginning and they want to make a sweater but they aren't really sure that they want to invest, you know, $70-$80 into a sweater, this is the way to go. You know, it's a wool, it totally works. It's not terrible at all. It does not have the chemical smell. People are nuts. It doesn't have a lot of vegetable matter. It's really clean considering, I don't know, it's cheap. I guess people just expect it to be really bad because it's cheap. There aren't a lot in this skein. Aren't a lot of knots in this skein that I've noticed in the 2 skeins I've had now. There are a lot of incidences of there being good batches of yarn and bad batches of yarn, and that could be the problem with a lot of the people who've reviewed this yarn. But I've gone through an entire ball and part of another one, and if my opinions change, I'll definitely edit this video a whole bunch. But I don't know, I think it's great. It knits up fine. And here is an example. I'm gonna try to show you an example of how it blocks. Here's a nice little swatch. Hold on, I gotta find a better one. This one's good. You can see it's all curly and shriveled and unattractive. If I were to block it, I would stretch it out, pin it. Well, these ones have all been blocked, and they were blocked a couple weeks ago. And I don't know why that one's kind of retarded. I don't know why I had to pick a really ugly one to show you, but it keeps its blocking pretty well. These ones, especially like this one right here, is a pretty textured pattern, and originally it was really scrunched up and weird looking, and it's taken to its blocking pretty well. Same thing with this one. It's a little bit wonky here at the bottom, but these have been hanging out in the freezer for 2 weeks. So it takes the blocking pretty well. I haven't done any lace with it yet, but I'm sure I will. And now for the really exciting part. People said that this yarn doesn't frog well. And I'm going to undo my swatch here. Oops, wrong side. And frog it and see if it's true. I'm assuming that what I'm looking for is some looseness, a lot of looseness and ugliness. These have been in this swatch for 2 nights now, so I guess that's not a very long time, but we'll see. Let's see. It's very kinky, of course, but really, it's not like obscene. It's not like really, I guess you could say it loosened up a little bit. Let's look at it. Here's its normal looseness. And here's, yeah, actually, you can sort of, in the original yarn, I know you can't see it, so I'm going to describe it for you. You can see all the plies are sort of twisted together, as they should be, and it's like a long braid. And then in the kinked yarn, you can see the individual plies. I can see 4 of them, maybe. And they're not coming apart yet, but you can see that they want to. And you know, ooh, right here, look at that. We've got a twist, or a hole. I don't know if that was in the yarn already. Actually, I think it might have been a split stitch. I think I might have done that during the swatch and not gone back and fixed it. But I don't know. Let's see if there's any other wonky spots. I would say probably you could frog it once, at least. Probably any yarn. Oh, what did I find? I don't know what that is. It's like brown fuzz, but it's plied in there. Actually, that's brown. That's the same color brown as the other, one of the other colors from this type of yarn. So there's a little bit of indications of, I guess, issues once it's been frogged, but not terrible. It's not like with certain yarns where you frog it and then it's doomed and you can't even knit with it again. It's not like, okay, that yarn I used for the sweater that I made, Knit One Crochet 2's Camelino. I frogged and refrogged and refrogged. I think with one ball, I refrogged at least 4 times with the one ball, the first ball. And it still looked beautiful. It looked exactly the same. There was no, I mean, it was a little kinky, but that was it. And this one, you can kind of tell. Like, it's a little fuzzier and a little less tight. But that's it. I'm going to do the crochet one too. I was going to block this one and see if it would block into submission, but I remembered I had blocked stitches or swatches already from my project, so mahaha, I made you from nothing. Okay. And I've never frogged anything crochet before, and I'm really excited to see that it really doesn't get as kinky as with knitting, and you can see these rows are much huger. Wow. But again, a little bit looser, and this one even less looser. Just a tiny bit looser, and is not anywhere near as bad as I was expecting. So I was expecting something super intense, which is why I did it on camera. But yeah, so I went over everything, loosely plied areas, etc. Yeah, and that's it. That's all I have to say about this yarn, except that don't listen to people's evil reviews. It's not that bad. It's really a nice yarn. I actually am really fond of it. The only thing I don't like about it is that it comes in a skein, because I like to wind things into balls, like I said. For that reason, when I do buy yarn to dye, I usually buy patterns, because it's just easier to unwind from a small thing, I guess. But I don't know, maybe that'll change. I didn't know how nicely it took, and I do like how thin it is. Patterns is kind of thick and cushy. I don't know. I'd say try it for yourself. I had a yarn scale a while ago, and I forgot it, but it was like ram you for like really good. This would be on the really good scale. Well, second to really good, because it's not like it's super fancy or anything. It's just a good workhorse yarn. It's the perfect beginner wool, and I like it. So, thumbs up from me. Thank you for watching my weirdly edited video, and go ahead and leave a comment or whatever if you want, and you can be my friend on Ravelry. My username is grandmastatus, and you can read my blog at don'tdroolonthewool.blogspot.com. That's all. Bye bye.